Hello, and welcome back to Chunking to Fluency, your go-to place for learning English naturally, one chunk at a time. In today's lesson, we'll be joining our latest four-part series together to form one long video entitled 100 frases curtas e lentas em inglês para falantes de nível intermediário. That makes 100 slow English sentences, all designed for intermediate level learners. Inside each sentence, you'll find useful phrases and expressions, or chunks, that real native speakers use every day. Your job? Just listen closely and shadow what you hear. That means repeating each phrase out loud, first with the speaker, then by yourself, at a comfortable, slow pace. This method will help you build fluency, confidence, and automatic recall. So get ready to speak, repeat, and improve, one chunk at a time. Are you ready? Let's begin.
Okay, good day everyone. First one up. Primeiro em português. Revisar cuidadosamente. Now in English, to carefully review. Again, to carefully review. We use this chunk phrase when we want to make sure something is okay, or maybe to double-check something for accuracy, like the final repairs on a vehicle or coding of a computer program. It can be something like a safety measure, used in order to avoid future problems. Let's use an example sentence. Primeiro, em português. O gerente pediu que todos os funcionários revisassem cuidadosamente os relatórios. And now, in English, the manager asked all employees to carefully review the reports. One more time. The manager asked all employees to carefully review the reports.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Primeiro em português, o presente de aniversário. And now in English, the birthday gift. And once more, the birthday gift.
Okay, I guess you could say this one is my favorite chunk phrase on today's list. Who doesn't like birthday gifts, right? Let's see it in a sentence. Você já escolheu o presente de aniversário da sua mãe? Now, in English, have you picked out your mother's birthday gift yet? And once again, have you picked out your mother's birthday gift yet?
The next chunk is a good one to use during the winter time. It's about staying warm. Here it is in Portuguese. Casaco mais quente. And English, a warmer coat. Again, a warmer coat. And now a good example sentence. Primeiro em português.
Se eu fosse você, levaria casaco mais quente.
And in English, if I were you, I'd take a warmer coat. If I were you, I'd take a warmer coat. A warmer coat would certainly make the cold weather more bearable, don't you think?
Next one, an important chunk to remember, and it describes the importance of a call that you are waiting for. Here it is, em português. Uma ligação importante. Now in English, an important call. Once more, an important call. Great! Now let's see it in action. Estou esperando uma ligação importante, então não posso sair agora. English. I'm waiting for an important call, so I can't leave right now. I'm waiting for an important call, so I can't leave right now.
Next on the list is quando você estiver pronto. Agora, em inglês, when you're ready. Once more, when you're ready. This is a handy phrase to use while waiting on or for someone. It lets another person know that you are patiently waiting for them. Be careful with this one because it could be misunderstood if you use the wrong tone of voice. Here's a good example of this chunk in its common use. Português. Quando você estiver pronto, podemos começar a reunião. Now, English. When you're ready, we can start the meeting. When you're ready, we can start the meeting.
Here's a good one. Em português, muito barulho. Now, in English, there's too much noise. Again, there's too much noise. Everyone has been at a place where there was just too much noise, right? Too much noise is very difficult to put up with, and it's the best way to ruin a good night's sleep or a nice movie. It's difficult to practice patience when there is too much noise. Here it is in an example sentence. Português. Ela não consegue se concentrar quando há muito barulho ao redor. E agora, inglês. She can't concentrate when there's too much noise around. Outra vez. She can't concentrate when there's too much noise around.
Moving right along, next up is estava tão lotado. Em inglês seria it was so crowded. It was so crowded. This is a phrase that you would use at a busy place, like a bar, a soccer game, or maybe a sold-out concert. It implies that there's too many people, so many that it exceeds the limitations of personal comfort. In the US, we often use a funny idiom like, it was like sardines in there. It likens the crowd to a can of sardines. Funny, right? In a common sentence, it would sound like this. Português. O restaurante estava tão lotado que tivemos que esperar por uma mesa. Now in English, the restaurant was so crowded that we had to wait for a table. Once more, the restaurant was so crowded that we had to wait for a table.
Like the movies? Then this one's for you. Primeiro em português. Acabou de estrear. Now in English. It just premiered. It just premiered. This chunk describes the release of a new movie. It is often used by people who have been waiting to see a movie that has been hyped up in commercials as a movie trailer, like the next Avengers or Mission Impossible movie. Let's look at this chunk in an example sentence. Português. Você viu aquele filme novo que acabou de estrear nos cinemas? And again, in English, Did you see that new movie that just premiered in theaters? Did you see that new movie that just premiered in theaters?
Next up is, em português, superar esse medo. English, to overcome that fear. To overcome that fear. This phrase is often used when we want to talk about conquering something scary. Something so scary that we have had to make it a point to overcome it. Fears like high altitudes, roller coasters, or flying in an airplane are among the most commonly conquered fears by people who were once terrified at the very thought of experiencing them. Let's look at this chunk in an example sentence. Primeiro em português. Ele não gosta de falar em público, mas está tentando superar esse medo. And in English, he doesn't like speaking in public, but he's trying to overcome that fear. And once more, he doesn't like speaking in public, but he's trying to overcome that fear.
And the next chunk phrase is, primeiro em português, vou passar no, and in English, I'll stop by the. I'll stop by the. This is a very common chunk phrase. It's used when we want to say that we are going to make a pit stop, which is just an English way of saying that we won't be staying long. It's very commonly used when we want to say that we are going to go to the grocery store, the post office, the dry cleaners, or any other place before arriving home. It can also be used to say that we are going to swing by someone's house for a brief visit. Here it is in a commonly used sentence. Português, vou passar no supermercado depois do trabalho para comprar pão. And in English, I'll stop by the supermarket after work to buy some bread. Once again, I'll stop by the supermarket after work to buy some bread.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. Here's a good one. Primeiro em português, ficar impressionado. And in English, to be impressed. Again, to be impressed. This is how we express being affected by something spectacular, usually in a positive way. We normally say it like, very impressive, or I'm impressed, or various other ways. But today, we'll say it like this. First, in Portuguese. Eles ficaram impressionados com a apresentação e fizeram várias perguntas. And now in English, they were impressed with the presentation and asked several questions. Once more, they were impressed with the presentation and asked several questions.
The next chunk phrase on the list is, o ar-condicionado não funciona. In English, the air conditioning don't work. Once more, the air conditioning don't work. I think everybody hates this phrase, but it's necessary to understand it, especially in South American countries like Brazil, where the heat and humidity can reach extreme highs. Muito sufocante, né? Aqui está o bloco em uma sentença. O quarto do hotel era confortável, mas o ar-condicionado não funcionava. Em inglês seria: a hotel room was comfortable, but the air conditioning didn't work. The hotel room was comfortable, but the air conditioning didn't work.
The next phrase is a very useful one. Here it is in Portuguese. Estar prestes a. In English, that would be to be about to. Again, to be about to. Why is this chunk so useful? Because it lets us express what we are at the point of doing, saying, etc. We can say, I'm about to go fishing. I'm about to say something awful. Or, I'm about to bake a cake. It's very handy because it speaks of our intention in the very near future. In the following sentence, it is used in the imperfect indicative tense, expressed to indicate what one was about to do. Português, ele estava prestes a sair quando começou a chover forte. And now in English, he was about to leave when it started to rain heavily. Once more, he was about to leave when it started to rain heavily.
And for those that prefer to keep things calm, this one's for you. Português para evitar multidões. Okay, now in English, to avoid crowds. Once again, to avoid crowds. This one is quite obvious, isn't it? You just don't feel like having a lot of human contact at the moment, or you just want things to go smoothly because you're just in that mood right now. No matter what the reason is, less is better at this moment. In this example sentence, it's all about having a nice quiet journey. Here it is in Portuguese. Nós preferimos viajar durante a semana para evitar multidões. Now let's hear it in English. We prefer to travel during the week to avoid crowds. One more time. We prefer to travel during the week to avoid crowds.
And moving on to the next one, here we go. Português. Atualizar seu cadastro. And in English, to update your registration. Again, to update your registration. There are some places, maybe a government body, an online website, or maybe a private group, that may require you to keep your information on file to be up to date. Perhaps once a year, once every 2 years, or in the case of a driver's license, usually 4 years. It's up to the terms that you have agreed to with that organization. Here it is in a commonly used sentence. Primeiro em português. Você precisa atualizar seu cadastro para continuar usando o serviço. In English, you need to update your registration in order to keep using the service. Once more, you need to update your registration in order to keep using the service.
Another handy chunk for you. Primeiro em português, no meio de. Now in English, in the middle of. Once more, in the middle of. We often use this chunk phrase when we want to express what we are currently involved with, such as in the middle of an important meeting, or maybe you want to use it when referring to the location of something, such as in the middle of the street. No matter how you choose to use this handy little phrase, you have to admit it's quite useful. Now let's hear it in a sentence. Portuguese. Meu computador travou no meio de uma reunião importante. And in English, my computer froze in the middle of an important meeting. Once more, my computer froze in the middle of an important meeting.
And here comes another one, short, sweet, and super helpful. Português explicou o exercício. Now in English, explain the exercise. One more time, explain the exercise. This one's great for any classroom context. When teachers break things down for you and give you those golden examples, that's when they explain the exercise. Let's hear it in action. Português. A professora explicou o exercício com muitos exemplos fáceis de entender. English. The teacher explained the exercise with lots of easy-to-understand examples. Once more, the teacher explained the exercise with lots of easy-to-understand examples.
Here comes one of those phrases that makes you sound instantly fluent. Primeiro em português, consegue se comunicar bem. And in English, can communicate well. Again, can communicate well. Fluency isn't just about big words, it's about connection. If someone isn't fluent yet but still manages to get the point across, yep, in my opinion, they can communicate well. Let's hear an example. Português. Embora ele não seja fluente, consegue se comunicar bem em inglês. English. Although he's not fluent, he can communicate well in English. Repeat. Although he's not fluent, he can communicate well in English.
Let's keep rolling with a super common chunk. Português estar pensando em. Now in English, to be thinking about. Once again, to be thinking about. It could be pizza, a vacation, a deep life decision. This chunk fits anywhere. In this case, barbecue. Let's hear it. Português. Estamos pensando em fazer churrasco no próximo fim de semana. English. We're thinking about having a barbecue next weekend. Once more. We're thinking about having a barbecue next weekend.
Next one is super common in both casual and business English. Português. Ter a chance de. In English, to have the chance to. One more time. To have the chance to. You can use this chunk to talk about opportunities you've had or missed. It's simple and really useful. We use this chunk when we want to talk about the prospects of possibly being able to do, say, or even receive something. You can also use it to talk about the chance to go somewhere. There are way too many uses for this chunk phrase to mention here, but it's very easy to get the hang of it once you start using it in conversation. Now listen to it being used in its preterite form. Português. Você já teve a chance de visitar o novo shopping? English. Have you had the chance to visit the new mall? Have you had the chance to visit the new mall?
Okay, this next one is great when you finally made it to your destination after a very long trip. Português, finalmente chegar ao. In English, to finally arrive at. Again, to finally arrive at. This one's dramatic. You've been driving for hours, stuck in traffic, maybe some bad directions, and then freedom. You've arrived. We use this when we have long anticipated arriving at our destination, often after a bit of boredom or impatience. A good example sentence would be: Portuguese, depois de horas dirigindo, eles finalmente chegaram ao hotel. English, after hours of driving, they finally arrived at the hotel. After hours of driving, they finally arrived at the hotel.
All right, time to unlock another useful one. Ready? Português, seguir as instruções corretamente. And in English, to follow the instructions correctly. Again, to follow the instructions correctly. This is the kind of phrase you hear in user manuals or right before someone ignores the instructions and breaks everything. Don't be that person. To follow instructions means to obey good advice. Advice that is usually printed in manuals, or it could be a direct order from your boss, or maybe even a police officer. Like I said, don't be that person. Listen to its proper use in this example. Portuguese. Se você seguir as instruções corretamente, não terá problemas. English. If you follow the instructions correctly, you won't have any problems. And once more, if you follow the instructions correctly, you won't have any problems.
Here's one for job changers, schedule hackers, and freedom lovers. Português, horário mais flexível. And in English, a more flexible schedule. Once again, a more flexible schedule. Whether you're tired of the 9 to 5 or just want to sleep in on Tuesdays, this is your chunk. It's just a simple chunk phrase that expresses the desire to have more freedom in a person's plans. Flexibility is always a good thing when it comes to a person's schedule. Let's hear its use in the following sentence. Português, ele trocou de emprego porque queria horário mais flexível. English, he changed jobs because he wanted a more flexible schedule. And once more, he changed jobs because he wanted a more flexible schedule.
This next chunk is the language of meetings, boardrooms, and indecision. Português, tomar uma decisão. And in English, to make a decision. And again, to make a decision. It doesn't have to be life-changing. Sometimes it's just deciding what's for dinner. Still counts, right? To make a decision is a chunk phrase that we use when something is still up in the air. By the way, up in the air is just a simple idiom that we use to say that something is still undecided. Hear it in proper use in the following sentence. Portuguese. Nós discutimos a proposta, mas ainda não tomamos uma decisão. English, We discussed the proposal, but we haven't made a decision yet. One more time. We discussed the proposal, but we haven't made a decision yet.
Next up, the glamorous life of business travel. Português, viajar a trabalho. And in English, to travel for work. One more time, to travel for work. Airport coffee, hotel pillows, and time zone confusion, all the makings of a working traveler's routine. This is used when travel is obligatory for a worker to finish his or her job. It has its benefits, but can be hard on family life. Some people love this type of job. Others, not so much. A good example of this chunking use would be Portuguese. Ela viaja a trabalho com frequência e já conhece vários países. Now in English, she travels for work often and already knows several countries. Once again, she travels for work often and already knows several countries.
Rain or shine, here's a chunk for go-getters. Português, decidiram continuar. In English, decided to continue. Decided to continue. This phrase shows determination, and in this case, it's what winners say when things get soggy. Let's hear a good example. Português, mesmo com chuva, eles decidiram continuar o passeio. English, even with rain, they decided to continue the tour. Even with rain, they decided to continue the tour.
All right, this one's for the procrastinators and the crashed computers. Português, terminar o relatório. English, to finish the report. To finish the report. You're focused, you're typing, and then, boom, system crash. Classic. Here it is in an example sentence. Português, não consegui terminar o relatório porque o sistema caiu. English, I couldn't finish the report because the system went down. I couldn't finish the report because the system went down.
Let's talk tech, specifically shutting it down the right way. Português, desligar o computador. English, to shut down the computer. To shut down the computer. It sounds simple, but don't just yank the plug. Be nice to your machine. Português, você precisa desligar o computador corretamente para evitar problemas. English, you need to shut down the computer properly to avoid problems. You need to shut down the computer properly to avoid problems.
Here comes a nostalgic chunk. Remember your first big moment? Português, a primeira vez. English, the first time. The first time. Whether it's driving, public speaking, or skydiving, there's always a first time. Let's hear it in action. Português, a primeira vez que ele dirigiu sozinho foi muito emocionante. English, the first time he drove alone was very exciting. The first time he drove alone was very exciting.
Okay, this one's all about conditions, literally. Português, antes de continuar. English, before continuing. Before continuing. Think of it as the verbal pause button. Everything's on hold until this gets done. Português. Estamos esperando uma resposta da empresa antes de continuar o projeto. English. We're waiting for a response from the company before continuing the project. We're waiting for a response from the company before continuing the project.
All right, this is a good one if you're searching for a better job and it's career-related. Português. Melhores oportunidades de emprego. English. Better job opportunities. Better job opportunities. This chunk is the main reason many people start learning English. Big dreams, better futures, better job. A good example would be Português. Eles querem aprender inglês para conseguir melhores oportunidades de emprego. English. They want to learn English to get better job opportunities. They want to learn English to get better job opportunities.
Now this one's for those of us who just can't make it on time. Em português, se atrasou para a aula. English, was late for class. Was late for class. Maybe traffic, maybe the alarm clock, maybe Netflix. Either way, we've all been there. Here it is in a sentence. Português. Ela se atrasou para a aula porque o ônibus demorou muito. English. She was late for class because the bus took too long. She was late for class because the bus took too long.
Here's one for when your favorite website decides to take a nap. Português. Esteja em manutenção. English. Be under maintenance. Be under maintenance. This chunk explains those annoying error pages that always pop up right when you're trying to do something important. An example sentence would be: Português. O site não está funcionando. Talvez esteja em manutenção. English. The website isn't working. It might be under maintenance. The website isn't working. It might be under maintenance.
Coming up, a bittersweet phrase that often involves cake and awkward speeches. Português, festa de despedida. English, farewell party. Farewell party. Goodbyes are hard, but at least there's usually snacks. Português, estamos organizando uma pequena festa de despedida para nosso colega. English, we're organizing a small farewell party for our colleague. We're organizing a small farewell party for our colleague.
If you've ever burned toast or undercooked spaghetti, this one's for you. Português. Cozinhar muito bem. English. To cook very well. To cook very well. Not all of us are chefs, but we can still try. Let's hear it in a sentence. Português. Ele não sabe cozinhar muito bem, mas está tentando aprender. English. He doesn't know how to cook very well, but he's trying to learn. He doesn't know how to cook very well, but he's trying to learn.
Time for a polite, flexible chunk phrase that opens doors. Português, se você quiser. English, if you want. If you want. This chunk works for invitations, suggestions, or just keeping things chill. A good example would be Português. Se você quiser, posso revisar seu texto antes de você enviar. English. If you want, I can review your text before you send it. If you want, I can review your text before you send it.
This one's for big moments and proud families. Português, se formar na universidade. English, to graduate from university. To graduate from university. Caps fly, cameras flash, grandma cries. The graduation moment. You have officially arrived. Here's a good example sentence for you. Português, minha irmã vai se formar na universidade no próximo mês. English, my sister is going to graduate from university next month. My sister is going to graduate from university next month.
Next up, one of those chunks that makes your travel plans fall apart. Em português, cancelaram todos os voos. English, canceled all flights. Canceled all flights. Nothing says adventure like sleeping in an airport chair, right? Not cool. Not cool at all. Here's a good example sentence. Portuguese. O tempo estava tão ruim que cancelaram todos os voos. English. The weather was so bad that they canceled all flights. The weather was so bad that they canceled all flights.
This one's optimistic, the kind of phrase that says we'll be back. Português, pretender voltar. English, to plan to return. To plan to return. It's what people say when they really liked the trip or the food. Let's hear it in a good example. Português, eles gostaram muito do hotel e pretendem voltar no ano que vem. English, they really like the hotel and plan to return next year. They really like the hotel and plan to return next year.
And now we're diving into business talk again. Em português, discutir os detalhes. To discuss the details. To discuss the details. This chunk is perfect for serious meetings or planning a surprise birthday party. Português. Precisamos nos encontrar mais cedo para discutir os detalhes. English. We need to meet earlier to discuss the details. We need to meet earlier to discuss the details.
And here's a phrase we all dread when loading a web page. Português. A internet está lenta. English. The internet is slow. Say it again. The internet is slow. When your screen's frozen and the video won't load, yep, this chunk speaks the truth. Listen to the following example. Português. A internet está lenta hoje. Deve estar com algum problema. English. The internet is slow today. There must be some issue. The internet is slow today. There must be some issue.
This next chunk is the ultimate compliment for a beginner who nails it. Português, ótimo trabalho. English, a great job. Whether it's a painting, a presentation, or just finally folding your laundry, A little praise goes a long way. Listen to this chunk in action. Português, embora não tenha experiência, ela fez ótimo trabalho. English, even though she has no experience, she did a great job. Even though she has no experience, she did a great job.
Here's a good chunk phrase for the curious creatives out there. Português, curso de fotografia. English, a photography course. A photography course. It's what you take when you're tired of blurry phone pics and want to go full National Geographic. Listen to it in the following sentence. Português, você já pensou em fazer curso de fotografia? English, have you ever thought about taking a photography course? Have you ever thought about taking a photography course?
Snack time. Português, levar lanche. English, to bring a snack. To bring a snack. Essential for road trips, long meetings, or just surviving Mondays. An example. Português, vou levar lanche, caso a viagem seja longa. English, I'll bring a snack in case the trip is long. I'll bring a snack in case the trip is long.
This chunk is a whole lifestyle vibe. Português, jantar fora aos sábados. English, to eat out on Saturdays. To eat out on Saturdays. It's the classic weekend routine. Skip the dishes and hit your favorite spot. Hear it expressed in a good example sentence. Português, eles costumam jantar fora aos sábados para relaxar depois da semana. English, they usually eat out on Saturdays to relax after the week. They usually eat out on Saturdays to relax after the week.
Coming up next, the student's weekly struggle. Português, entregarmos o trabalho. English, to hand in the assignment. To hand in the assignment. Usually followed by, wait, was that due today? Listen to the following example. Português, o professor pediu para entregarmos o trabalho até segunda-feira. English, the teacher asked us to hand in the assignment by Monday. The teacher asked us to hand in the assignment by Monday.
The race against time is real. Português, antes que a loja feche. English, before the store closes. Before the store closes. This is that last-minute gift dash. Full sprint and no regrets. Português, preciso comprar presente antes que a loja feche. English, I need to buy a gift before the store closes. I need to buy a gift before the store closes.
Hydration check. Português, se sentir melhor. English, to feel better. To feel better. Whether you're tired, sick, or just low energy, this chunk's your go-to. An example would be, Português, se você beber muita água, vai se sentir melhor. English, if you drink plenty of water, you'll feel better. If you drink plenty of water, you'll feel better.
Okay, this one's poetic. Em português, a vista do topo. Now in English, the view from the top. The view from the top. It could be a mountain, a building, or life itself. Always a great view. Let's hear it in action. Português, a vista do topo da montanha era simplesmente incrível. English, the view from the top of the mountain was simply amazing. The view from the top of the mountain was simply amazing.
Now let's deliver this next chunk, literally. Em português, o serviço de entrega. English, the delivery service. The delivery service. We live in the age of delivery. Food, furniture, flamingo pool floats. You name it. We're spoiled rotten, aren't we? Listen to this chunk in the following sentence. Português, o serviço de entrega está mais rápido do que antes. English, the delivery service is faster than it used to be. The delivery service is faster than it used to be.
And the next one is for the resume boosters. Em português, melhorar seu currículo. And in English, to improve your resume. Once more, to improve your resume. This chunk shows motivation. It's for people with ambition and good taste in verbs. Em português, ele se matriculou no curso porque quer melhorar seu currículo. English, he enrolled in the course because he wants to improve his resume. He enrolled in the course because he wants to improve his resume.
Here's a chunk that belongs in every where are we moment. Em português, o endereço no mapa. Now in English, the address on the map. The address on the map. This is what you're frantically trying to find when your phone battery hits 2%. An example sentence. Em português, nós não conseguimos encontrar o endereço no mapa. English, we couldn't find the address on the map. We couldn't find the address on the map.
Here comes a chunk filled with emotion and lots of texts. Em português, ela ficou surpresa com. In English, she was surprised by. She was surprised by. This one's perfect when something totally unexpected shows up, like 78 new WhatsApp messages. An example sentence. Em português, ela ficou surpresa com a quantidade de mensagens que recebeu. Now in English, she was surprised by how many messages she received. She was surprised by how many messages she received.
This one's got energy. Kid energy. Em português, estavam tão animadas. Now in English, we're so excited. We're so excited. This is what happens the night before a field trip, a birthday, or Christmas morning. An example sentence. Em português, As crianças estavam tão animadas que quase não dormiram. Now in English, the children were so excited that they barely slept. The children were so excited that they barely slept.
This chunk is for the binge watchers and documentary fans. Em português, o documentário. In English, the documentary. The documentary. You start watching for 5 minutes, and 2 hours later, you're ready to become a wildlife expert. An example sentence. Em português, o documentário foi tão interessante que assisti 2 vezes. English, the documentary was so interesting that I watched it twice. The documentary was so interesting that I watched it twice.
Here's one for the eco-conscious crowd, or the car-free rebels. Em português, andar mais de bicicleta. In English, to ride bikes more often. To ride bikes more often. Less gas, more pedals. Great for your health and your mood. An example sentence. Em português, eles decidiram vender o carro e andar mais de bicicleta. English, they decided to sell the car and ride bikes more often. They decided to sell the car and ride bikes more often.
And now, a relatable tragedy. Em português, caiu no chão. Now in English, fell on the floor. Fell on the floor. That heart-stopping moment when gravity wins and you pray the screen didn't crack. An example sentence. Em português, meu celular caiu no chão, mas felizmente não quebrou. English. My phone fell on the floor, but luckily it didn't break. My phone fell on the floor, but luckily it didn't break.
This one's a friendly reminder. Read before you do stuff. Em português, ler as instruções com atenção. In English, to read the instructions carefully. To read the instructions carefully. Because life is easier when you don't skip step 1. An example sentence. Em português, é importante ler as instruções com atenção antes de começar. English. It's important to read the instructions carefully before starting. It's important to read the instructions carefully before starting.
This next one, totally relatable in 2025. Em português, trabalhar de casa. Now in English, to work from home. To work from home. Also known as pajama productivity and Zoom meetings with coffee in hand. An example sentence. Em português, a maioria das pessoas prefere trabalhar de casa atualmente? English. Most people prefer to work from home nowadays. Most people prefer to work from home nowadays.
Here's a chunk that proves you can do a lot with a little. En português, com pouco tempo. In English, with little time. With little time. You were rushed, you were stressed, but you still got it done. Boom! An example sentence. Em português, mesmo com pouco tempo, conseguimos terminar o projeto. English. Even with little time, we managed to finish the project. Even with little time, we managed to finish the project.
Let's wrap this round up with a chunk full of fun. Em português, opções de lazer. And in English, leisure options. Leisure options. Think parks, museums, arcades, or even just napping in a hammock. An example sentence. Em português, a cidade oferece várias opções de lazer para todas as idades. English. The city offers many leisure options for all ages. The city offers many leisure options for all ages.
You know it's a bad sign when nobody is at the front desk. Em português, na recepção. And English, at the front desk. At the front desk, you walk in, look around, and it's just crickets. Classic hotel mystery. An example sentence. Em português, não havia ninguém na recepção quando chegamos ao hotel. English, there was no one at the front desk when we arrived at the hotel. There was no one at the front desk when we arrived at the hotel.
Let's talk about the real reason we go out, food. Em português, a comida no restaurante. Now in English, the food at the restaurant. The food at the restaurant. When it's good, it's worth writing home about, or at least leaving a glowing review. An example sentence. Em português, a comida no restaurante estava deliciosa e bem servida. English. The food at the restaurant was delicious and generous. The food at the restaurant was delicious and generous.
This chunk's a timestamp and usually a food coma marker. Em português, depois do almoço. And in English, after lunch. After lunch. The perfect time for a stroll, a nap, or a museum tour. An example sentence. Em português, depois do almoço, vamos visitar o museu e tomar café. English, after lunch, we'll visit the museum and have a coffee. After lunch, we'll visit the museum and have a coffee.
Next up, a travel chunk you'll definitely use in Brazil. Em português, quando chegarmos. Now in English, when we arrive. When we arrive, great for planning what comes next, like where the nearest beach is. An example sentence. Em português, por favor, avise-me quando chegarmos ao Rio de Janeiro. English, please tell me when we arrive to Rio de Janeiro. Please tell me when we arrive to Rio de Janeiro.
This one's for the early birds and airport planners. Em português, chamar táxi. And in English, to call a taxi. To call a taxi. This chunk saves the day when public transport just isn't cutting it. An example sentence. Em português, queria chamar táxi para as 9 da manhã. English, I'd like to call a taxi for 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to call a taxi for 9 o'clock in the morning.
Let's talk money. This chunk helps you budget like a pro. Em português, por hora. Now in English, per hour. Per hour. Whether it's renting a bike or hiring a tutor, you'll want this phrase handy. An example sentence. Em português, quanto custa alugar por hora? English, how much does it cost to rent per hour? How much does it cost to rent per hour?
Still renting? You'll need this chunk too. En portugués, por día. In English, per day. Per day. Great for travel, car rentals, or figuring out what you're paying for that cute little scooter. An example sentence. En portugués, ¿cuánto custa alugar por día? English, how much does it cost to rent per day? How much does it cost to rent per day?
And if you're staying longer, here's a chunk with serious savings. Em português, por semana. Now in English, per week. Per week. A handy phrase for Airbnb hosts, car rentals, or co-working spaces. An example sentence. Em português, quanto custa alugar por semana? English, how much does it cost to rent per week? How much does it cost to rent per week?
This one's a low-fuel panic button. En portugués, sem gasolina. And in English, out of gasoline. Out of gasoline. No one ever plans for it, but it always happens on a road trip, right? An example sentence. En portugués, eu estou sem gasolina. English, I've run out of gasoline. I've run out of gasoline.
Let's close this round with a digital era necessity. En português, acesso à internet. In English, access to the internet. Access to the internet. You can lose your luggage, but if you have Wi-Fi, you'll survive. An example sentence. En português, queria ter acesso à internet. English, I'd like to have access to the internet. I'd like to have access to the internet.
This one's for the planners in the group. Em português, devemos estar de volta. And in English, should be back. Should be back. This chunk is perfect when you're organizing a group outing and want to seem responsible. An example sentence. Em português, a que horas é que devemos estar de volta? English, what time should we be back? What time should we be back?
Ah, yes. Shopping vocabulary. Very important stuff. Em português, o meu número. In English, my size is. My size is. Because nobody wants shoes that are too tight or jeans that betray you at lunch. An example sentence. Em português, o meu número é o 40. English, my size is 40. My size is 40.
Here's a retro chunk for old school photographers. In português, filme a preto e branco. And in English, black and white film. Black and white film. Yes, film. Like the stuff people used before selfies. An example sentence. En português, preciso de filme a preto e branco para esta máquina. English, I need a black and white film for this camera. I need a black and white film for this camera.
Simple, classic, sharp. En português, chega. Now in English, enough. Enough. Used when you've hit your limit, or just don't want to hear another sentimental story. An example sentence. En português, chega. Chega de coisas sentimentais. English, enough. Enough of the sentimental stuff. Enough. Enough of the sentimental stuff. This chunk is a travel nightmare. Em português, minha mochila. In English, my backpack. My backpack. Where are your passport, snacks, phone charger, and dignity? In the backpack. Hopefully. Em português, minha mochila foi roubada por bando de ladrões. English, my backpack was stolen by a band of thieves. My backpack was stolen by a band of thieves.
Here's a polite and specific phrase for healthcare visits. Em português, ser vista por uma médica. And in English, to be seen by a female doctor. To be seen by a female doctor. It's about comfort and communication. Use it when it matters. Em português, devido a problema pessoal, solicitei ser vista por uma médica. English. Due to a personal issue, I requested to be seen by a female doctor. Due to a personal issue, I requested to be seen by a female doctor.
Let's talk about those rough mornings. In português, dor de garganta. In English, a sore throat. A sore throat. It starts with a tickle. Next thing you know, you're whispering and sipping tea like a drama queen. Em português, não posso cantar esta noite porque estou com dor de garganta. English, I can't sing tonight because I have a sore throat. I can't sing tonight because I have a sore throat.
Time for a chunk full of adventure and inspiration. Em português, desbravar novos horizontes. And in English, to explore new horizons. To explore new horizons. It sounds poetic, but it could just mean trying sushi for the first time. Em português, estou sempre disposto a desbravar novos horizontes, incluindo sushi. English, I am always willing to explore new horizons, including sushi. I am always willing to explore new horizons, including sushi.
Brace yourself for a powerful metaphor. Em português, tecnologia que humilha. Now in English, technology that puts to shame. Technology that puts to shame. This is the stuff that makes the atomic bomb look like a party trick. Em português, esse é o tipo de tecnologia que humilha a bomba atômica. English, that's the kind of technology that puts the atomic bomb to shame. That's the kind of technology that puts the atomic bomb to shame.
Ready for a chunk full of disbelief. Em português, só pode estar brincando. And in English, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. Use it when someone eats the last slice of pizza again. Em português, sério. A última fatia de pizza, você só pode estar brincando. English, really? The last slice of pizza? You gotta be kidding. Really? The last slice of pizza? You gotta be kidding.
Feeling tired? This chunk might explain why. Em português, ficar sem energia. In English, to run out of energy. To run out of energy. We use this when we're totally wiped out, physically or emotionally. Em português, depois da reunião, eu fiquei sem energia. English, after the meeting, I ran out of energy. After the meeting, I ran out of energy.
Relationship vibes incoming. Em português, levar tudo a sério. In English, to take everything seriously. To take everything seriously. This chunk works great when someone can't take a joke. Em português, ela leva tudo a sério e fica chateada com facilidade. English, She takes everything seriously and gets upset easily. She takes everything seriously and gets upset easily.
Time to talk tech. Em português, ficar sem sinal. In English, to lose signal. To lose signal. Perfect for tech fails or awkward moments on Zoom calls. Em português, fiquei sem sinal bem no meio da videoconferência. English, I lost signal right in the middle of the video call. I lost signal right in the middle of the video call.
Let's talk priorities. Em português, dar mais atenção. In English, to give more attention. To give more attention. Useful when reminding someone to focus on what matters. Em português, você precisa dar mais atenção aos seus estudos. English, you need to give more attention to your studies. You need to give more attention to your studies.
It's okay to feel this way. Em português, ficar na dúvida. In English, to be unsure. To be unsure. This chunk helps when you're stuck between two choices. Em português, fiquei na dúvida se aceitava a proposta ou não. English, I was unsure whether to accept the proposal or not. I was unsure whether to accept the proposal or not.
For when you just click with someone. Em português, ter uma boa conexão. In English, to have a good connection. To have a good connection. Emotionally or Wi-Fi, context matters. Em português, acho que temos uma boa conexão desde o primeiro encontro. English, I think we've had a good connection since the first date. I think we've had a good connection since the first date.
Self-discipline isn't easy. Em português, manter o foco. In English, to stay focused. To stay focused. Essential when distractions come knocking. Em português, é difícil manter o foco trabalhando de casa. English, it's hard to stay focused working from home. It's hard to stay focused working from home.
Let's get motivated. Em português, seguir em frente. In English, to move forward. To move forward. Use it after setbacks, breakups, or failures. Em português, apesar dos problemas, ela decidiu seguir em frente. English, despite the problems, she decided to move forward. Despite the problems, she decided to move forward.
Total chaos. That's what this chunk delivers. Em português, em completa desordem. In English, in complete disarray. In complete disarray. It's a useful phrase for describing messy situations, physical or emotional. Em português, a multidão que se achava no teatro estava em completa desordem. English, the crowd that was in the theater was in complete disarray. The crowd that was in the theater was in complete disarray.
Work stress? We got you. Em português, lidar com pressão. In English, to deal with pressure. To deal with pressure. Ideal when talking about difficult jobs or big decisions. Em português, ele sabe lidar com pressão em situações complicadas. English, he knows how to deal with pressure in tough situations. He knows how to deal with pressure in tough situations.
This one is cinematic. In português, uma forte luz. In English, a strong light. A strong light. Perfect for dramatic scenes or spiritual moments. Think spotlight from the sky. Em português, uma forte luz que vinha do céu brilhou em volta de mim. English, a strong light that came from heaven shone around me. A strong light that came from heaven shone around me.
Let's get real. In português, falar abertamente. In English, to speak openly. To speak openly. This chunk builds trust in conversations. Em português, precisamos falar abertamente sobre nossos sentimentos. English, we need to speak openly about our feelings. We need to speak openly about our feelings.
A great one for new habits. En português, criar uma rotina. In English, to create a routine. To create a routine. Use this chunk when talking about discipline or change. En português, ele quer criar uma rotina mais saudável esse ano. English, he wants to create a healthier routine this year. He wants to create a healthier routine this year.
Got a favorite hat? This one speaks for itself, literally. Em português, cale a boca e pesque. In English, shut up and fish. Shut up and fish. Sounds like something a grumpy uncle would wear on a boat. Love it. Em português, eu tenho até chapéu que diz cale a boca e pesque. English, I even have a hat that says shut up and fish. I even have a hat that says shut up and fish.
We've all been there. Too much happening. Can't breathe. In português, cheirar as rosas. And in English, to smell the roses. To smell the roses. This phrase is all about slowing down, if only for a second. Em português, há muitas coisas acontecendo para parar e cheirar as rosas. English, there are too many things going on to stop and smell the roses. There are too many things going on to stop and smell the roses.
Ending on a positive note. Em português, ver o lado bom. In English, to see the bright side. To see the bright side. A feel-good phrase you'll want to use often. Em português, mesmo com problemas, sempre tento ver o lado bom. English, even with problems, I always try to see the bright side. Even with problems, I always try to see the bright side.
This chunk's got high stakes. Em português, perder o plano. In English, to miss the plan. To miss the plan. Great motivation or a gentle guilt trip. Em português, se você desistir, vai perder o plano. English, if you give up, you're going to miss the plan. If you give up, you're going to miss the plan.
Ever been stuck? Literally? Em português, ficar presos aqui. And in English, to be stuck here. To be stuck here. Use this for travel, traffic, or awkward conversations at family dinners. Em português, quanto tempo vamos ficar presos aqui? English, how long are we going to be stuck here? How long are we going to be stuck here?
Last one, and it's groundbreaking. Literally, in português, abalou os alicerces. In English, shook the foundations. Shook the foundations. This phrase is full of drama and power. Use wisely. Em português, o chão tremeu tanto que abalou os alicerces. English, the ground trembled so much that it shook the foundation. The ground trembled so much that it shook the foundation.
We hope you learned something new today with these English chunks and that you're feeling more confident with each phrase you practice. Thanks so much for listening and for being a part of the Chunking to Fluency community. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who's also learning English. And of course, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell icon so you never miss a chance to increase your fluency. See you in the next lesson. Be blessed.